The morning sunlight poured through the towering glass windows of the downtown office building, painting golden reflections across the polished marble floor as employees hurried toward elevators with coffee cups in hand, unaware that a single ordinary-looking encounter would completely change one woman's life before the weekend was over. Nobody noticed the quiet man in faded work boots, worn jeans, and a blue maintenance shirt carrying a heavy toolbox through the lobby. To everyone else, he looked like just another worker fixing lights, repairing doors, and making sure the building stayed running. But one careless judgment, one unexpected act of kindness, and one shocking Monday morning announcement would prove that appearances can hide extraordinary truths. Before we continue, if you believe kindness, humility, and second chances can change lives, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to Kindness Matters so together we can spread stories that remind the world compassion is never wasted. The company was called Hawthorne Dynamics, one of the fastest-growing technology firms in the city. Every employee dreamed of climbing its corporate ladder because success there could transform an entire family's future. Among its newest hires was Maren Ellis, a 28-year-old marketing coordinator whose life had been built on determination rather than privilege. She had grown up watching her widowed mother work double shifts just to keep the lights on. Every scholarship, every late-night study session, and every difficult decision had been fueled by a promise that one day she would create a better life for both of them. Landing this job felt like the beginning of that promise becoming real, but she quickly discovered that success inside the company depended as much on office politics as talent. The first week was exhausting. Managers expected perfection, deadlines arrived faster than anyone anticipated, and the pressure to impress seemed endless. Employees dressed in expensive suits, spoke confidently in meetings, and carefully protected their reputations. Maren often felt invisible, trying desperately not to make mistakes while learning names, systems, and expectations all at once. Every morning she entered the building reminding herself that this opportunity could never be wasted. Late Friday afternoon, after an especially stressful meeting, Maren hurried toward the executive conference room carrying presentation folders. Her thoughts raced with anxiety because one missing report threatened to ruin weeks of preparation. Turning the corner too quickly, she accidentally collided with a maintenance worker carrying a toolbox. Papers scattered across the hallway while a wrench clattered loudly across the floor. Without looking closely at the man, frustration poured out before patience had a chance to speak. She blamed him for standing in the way, assuming he should have been more careful. Several nearby employees glanced over before continuing their conversations, pretending not to notice the uncomfortable moment. The maintenance worker never raised his voice. He quietly bent down, collected every document with remarkable care, aligned each page perfectly, and handed the folders back with a calm smile. Instead of responding to her irritation, he simply apologized even though the accident had not truly been his fault. There was something unusual about his composure. His eyes reflected confidence rather than embarrassment, and despite wearing simple work clothes, he carried himself with quiet dignity. Maren accepted the papers without offering thanks and rushed away, believing she had no more time to lose. The rest of the afternoon became increasingly chaotic. Important files disappeared from the company's internal system, computers froze, and several departments struggled to finish reports before the weekend. Employees complained loudly while blaming one another for technical failures. Maren's anxiety only deepened because the marketing campaign she had spent weeks preparing suddenly seemed impossible to complete. As she sat staring hopelessly at her frozen screen, she noticed the same maintenance worker walking calmly through the office checking electrical panels and networking equipment. Within minutes, the computers slowly came back online. Printers restarted, lights stabilized, and the entire office breathed a collective sigh of relief. Everyone thanked the information technology department without realizing the quiet maintenance worker had personally identified the damaged power connection responsible for the outage. He accepted no praise and disappeared before anyone thought to ask his name. Outside the building that evening, dark clouds gathered unexpectedly as heavy rain began pouring across the city. Employees rushed toward parking garages while others searched desperately for ride-sharing services overwhelmed by demand. Marin discovered her aging car refused to start. She tried again and again, but the engine remained silent. Panic settled over her because her mother depended on medication that needed to be picked up before the pharmacy closed. As rain soaked the parking lot, the familiar maintenance worker approached carrying a flashlight and toolbox. Without hesitation he examined the engine, identified a loose battery connection, and repaired it within minutes using simple tools already in his bag. When the engine finally started, relief washed across Marin's face. She reached for her wallet, determined to pay him for his help, but he politely declined. He simply wished her a safe drive home and reminded her that everyone eventually needs help from someone else. Before she could properly thank him, he disappeared into the rain. That evening, Marin replayed the day's events repeatedly. She remembered how impatient she had been in the hallway, how calmly he had responded, and how generously he had helped her afterward without expecting recognition. Guilt slowly replaced embarrassment. She realized she had judged an entire person based solely on a uniform and a toolbox. It was a painful lesson she could not ignore. The weekend brought little peace. Marin visited her mother, helped around the small apartment where she had grown up, and confessed how badly she felt about treating someone unfairly. Her mother listened quietly before sharing the lesson that had guided her own difficult life. She reminded Marin that character reveals itself most clearly in how people treat those who appear unable to benefit them. Titles disappear. Wealth changes. Kindness remains. Those words settled deeply into Marin's heart. Monday morning arrived bright and clear. Employees filled the company's largest conference hall because an important announcement had been scheduled. Rumors spread rapidly throughout the building. Some believed the company had been sold. Others expected layoffs or restructuring. The previous chief executive had retired unexpectedly, leaving everyone uncertain about the future. Excitement mixed with nervous anticipation as department heads gathered near the front while new employees stood quietly along the walls. Marin entered the room still thinking about the maintenance worker. She hoped she might see him again and finally apologize for her behavior. Instead, she noticed every executive looking unusually serious. Conversation stopped as the chairman stepped onto the stage to introduce the company's new leader. The doors at the back of the auditorium opened slowly. The man walking confidently toward the stage looked immediately familiar. The faded maintenance uniform had disappeared, replaced by a tailored navy suit, but the same calm eyes and humble expression remained unchanged. Gasps echoed throughout the room as employees stared in disbelief. The quiet worker carrying a toolbox only days earlier was introduced as Rowan Mercer, founder's grandson, accomplished entrepreneur, and the newly appointed chief executive officer of Hawthorne Dynamics. The maintenance work had never been permanent employment. For several weeks he had quietly worked throughout the building observing company culture, understanding employee challenges firsthand, and discovering how people treated those they believed held no power. The room fell completely silent. Faces turned pale as memories of careless comments and dismissive attitudes resurfaced. Some employees lowered their eyes in shame. Others forced nervous smiles hoping they had made good impressions. Marin felt her heart sink. She remembered every impatient word spoken in the hallway and wished she could disappear. Yet Rowan's opening speech surprised everyone. Rather than criticizing anyone publicly, he spoke about dignity. He explained that successful companies are not built by executives alone but by receptionists, cleaners, security guards, maintenance workers, assistants, accountants, engineers, and interns working together with mutual respect. He said true leadership begins with listening before speaking and serving before expecting service. The room remained completely still because every sentence carried unmistakable sincerity. Over the following weeks, unexpected changes transformed the workplace. Rowan removed unnecessary barriers separating executives from employees. Every department shared ideas openly. Recognition programs honored people from every level of the organization rather than only senior management. Break rooms improved. Employee training expanded. Volunteer projects connected the company with local schools and shelters. Productivity increased naturally because people finally felt valued instead of overlooked. Marin carried the weight of guilt each day. She wanted to apologize but feared her words would sound self-serving now that Rowan was CEO. Finally, after gathering enough courage, she requested a brief meeting. She entered his office expecting formality and disappointment. Instead, she found the same warm smile she remembered from the rainy parking lot. Before she could finish apologizing, Rowan gently acknowledged that everyone makes unfair assumptions at some point in life. What mattered, he explained, was whether those experiences changed them. He admitted that he remembered her frustration but also knew stress often causes people to behave unlike their true selves. Since that Friday, he had quietly noticed how respectfully she treated reception staff, interns, and custodians after reflecting on her mistake. Growth, he said, deserved more attention than failure. Those words lifted an enormous burden from Marin's heart. Inspired by the experience, she became one of the strongest advocates for building a culture of respect inside the company. She organized appreciation events recognizing employees whose contributions often went unnoticed. She encouraged new hires to learn the names of everyone they worked alongside, regardless of job title. Her marketing campaigns gradually reflected the company's deeper values rather than simply promoting products. Customers noticed the authenticity, and the brand earned a reputation not only for innovation but also for humanity. Months later, Hawthorne Dynamics received national recognition as one of the best workplaces in the country. Journalists praised its remarkable culture without realizing the transformation had begun with a toolbox, a hallway collision, and one leader willing to understand people before leading them. Marin often remembered that rainy Friday evening whenever she passed someone repairing lights or cleaning offices. She no longer saw uniforms. She saw human beings carrying invisible stories, sacrifices, dreams, and responsibilities just like her own. Every smile she offered, every thank you she expressed, and every respectful conversation became a quiet reminder that dignity costs nothing but can change everything. The greatest lesson was never about discovering that the maintenance worker became the CEO. The real lesson was that every person deserved kindness long before anyone knew their position, wealth, or influence. Respect should never depend on someone's title because the measure of our character is revealed when we believe no reward is waiting in return. Special request: comment below with the words, "Kindness always wins," if you believe every person deserves respect regardless of their job title. As the years passed, employees continued telling the story of the mysterious maintenance worker who quietly transformed an entire company without demanding attention or applause. New generations joined the organization inspired by that unforgettable lesson, ensuring humility remained stronger than pride and compassion remained more valuable than status. And every Monday morning, as sunlight reflected across the same marble floor where everything had begun, people greeted one another with genuine respect, knowing that behind every ordinary face could be an extraordinary story waiting to be understood. If this story touched your heart, inspired you, or reminded you never to judge someone by appearances, please like this video, leave your thoughts in the comments, share it with friends and family, and subscribe to Kindness Matters. Your support helps us continue sharing powerful stories that remind the world kindness is never weakness, respect is always meaningful, and one compassionate choice can change a life forever.